What is the opposite of the word hello? Stick around to learn the answer. The English have a long history of loving to play with their words, oftentimes transforming them and changing foreign words just for the fun of it. There are famous examples, such as Rotten Row, an avenue in Hyde Park, which came from the French Route de Roi, King's Road, and the streets Elephant and Castle, just south of River Thames, actually coming from the French Enfant de Castille. All these charming stories can be quite entertaining. And lucky for you, today we will be focusing on a particular phrase that a lot of people think the English borrowed and transformed from French. Hello, and welcome to Curiosity Factor. Today, instead of saying goodbye to you, we'll say toodaloo or toodlepip, but not before explaining to you where these words come from. So, let's get started. First, it is important to understand that toodaloo and toodlepip are playful synonyms to goodbye. But where do these words come from? Toodaloo is yet another word that is said to come from French, specifically from the phrase à tout à l'heure, which means see you later or see you anytime. But just like Rotten Row and Elephant and Castle, besides the similarity of sound, there is no other evidence that it actually comes from French. And etymology by sound is not sound etymology, as linguists will tell you. It's exceedingly easy to find sound coincidences with seemingly plausible related meanings. It's hard to get a nice and easily traceable source for the phrase toodaloo, and it would be preferable to just say it comes from French and be done with this video. But unfortunately, things aren't quite as straight and simple as you'd think. There is a possibility that these terms come from French, but that there is also a possibility that they come from a different English phrase, or from a completely different language. The theories about toodaloo and toodlepip show that the phrases have started being used in the early 20th century, no later than 1907. And that was a time when the English didn't particularly like borrowing phrases and terms from other languages. So the theory that these words come from French might not be valid after all. Aside from the supposed French origin, which is discounted by researched etymological sources, there are two main ideas about their origins. One idea sees these phrases as coming from the word tootle, which is a variant of toddle, as in toddle off, which means to walk off with a tottering or waddling step, like a young child. In a nutshell, toddle off just means go, with a somewhat leisurely tone to it. The earliest use of toodaloo comes from a 1907 issue of Punch magazine, which employed P.G. Wodehouse at the time. In fact, the famous writer was a big fan of the word and used it quite often. Another early user of the phrase was T.E. Lawrence, who in a 1908 letter wrote toodaloo. Since then, toodaloo has remained in usage and has been abbreviated to toodles, which somehow became even more popular. However, toodles seems to be more popular among Americans, because what's more amusing to Americans than words that sound British? And what's more British to Americans than words that sound a bit silly, like this one? On the other hand, toodlepip, another word used for goodbye, came later, in 1977, from blending the already popular toodaloo with pip-pip. The expression came from toot, in imitation of a car horn, together with its associated co-occurrence with pip-pip, which is also imitative of a car horn. The merger of the two, toodlepip. Incidentally, a contemporary of toodaloo is cheerio, whose first citation is from 1914. In 2014, a flurry of media stories made a very big deal of the fact that cheerio is not said as much in the early 21st century, framing its downfall as a loss of Britishness that was most probably Americans' fault. Well, if the sense of national self is based on Edwardian-era linguistic fads, then why is no one up in arms about the toodles? But what do you think about these expressions? Have you ever used any of them? Will you start using them from now on? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. Toodaloo!